Black IDE is an integrated development environment, making developing Ethereum smart contracts on all EVM-compatible blockchains faster and easier. Black IDE currently offers a standalone desktop application running on macOS, Windows, and Linux, as well as a web version that runs in modern web browsers. In this video, we'll just use the desktop application and leave the web version for yourself to play with. When Black IDE is properly installed and started for the first time, you will see a welcome page where the dependencies for the blockchains are displayed, including Docker, Guestnode, and Truffle. Docker is used to start the Ethereum node and compile projects in Black IDE. If Docker is not installed yet, users can click the Install Docker button to visit the official Docker website and download and install it. Guest in Docker is the Ethereum node image. Black IDE uses the image to run the Ethereum node and compile projects. Truffle in Docker is an Ethereum version of Truffle used to create and compile projects. When all the dependencies are properly installed and run, the gray skip button will change into a valid Get Started button. Click the button to enter the main interface of Black IDE. One thing to note is the above is only for desktop. The web version does not have any local prerequisites. Simply visit eth.ide.black to start it. After entering the main interface, users are required to create some key pairs first. Open Key Pair Manager by clicking the key icon at the bottom left on any interface of Black IDE. Users can create, import, and manage key pairs in the Key Pair Manager. Click Create button and follow the prompts to key in a name and create a key pair. When creating or editing a key pair, users can set an alias for key pair identification purpose in later use. Black IDE creates new key pairs with private keys by default, but mnemonics is also supported. Simply click on the arrow next to Regenerate button and select from drop-down list. In case of importing key pairs, click Import button on the bottom left and put in the private key or mnemonic you want to import. Black IDE will automatically parse it and the corresponding address will be indicated below. If the key is deemed valid, click Import again to complete the process. Please note, private keys and mnemonics exclusively prove the ownership of a key pair. Please securely store them and do not share them with others under any circumstances. Leaking or losing private keys or mnemonics may lead to permanent loss of digital assets. And we also strongly recommend you try things on testnet before going to mainnet and keep a small amount of money in your wallet whenever possible. Black IDE has built-in configurations for connections to multiple popular blockchains, as well as the Binance Smart Chain, mainnet and testnet. Click the arrow next to Network tab and select the network you wish to connect from the drop-down list. Black IDE also supports customized network connections. Click on the arrow and select Custom Network from the drop-down list. Follow the prompt to put in the designated node URL information to connect. This can be very useful when the default node URL of the built-in configure fails to work. You can configure a new network here with a working node URL. For example, this is for my Binance Smart Chain testnet. Once the network is connected, click Explorer tag on the top right corner to switch to Block Explorer. Block Explorer provides a tool to query information and a given address that usually includes token information and transaction history. Click the arrow next to Explorer tag and select the address you would like to query from the drop-down list. Users should now see the information being pulled up on the screen. Meanwhile, users may also manually key in the address to to view the corresponding information. For users' convenience, Black IDE's Block Explorer comes with a few widgets. Invoke it by clicking on the buttons next to the address column. Click Transfer button to initiate a quick transfer. The transfer widget supports transfer of Ethereum or any ERC20 holding in the account to a designated receipt. Select the transaction token and key in corresponding parameters, then click Send Push button to execute. Every transaction will be recorded in the transaction history for reference purpose. And when connecting to testnet, a click on Faucet button will direct the user to a website where you can apply for test tokens for development or test purposes. All Faucet tokens are test tokens and have no monetary value. Above are just some basic features, and now let's come to the core function, Smart Contract Project. Click Project tab to switch to Project Manager. Then click New button. On the top right corner, to open Create Project pop-up, select whether user want to create a local or cloud project. Then key in the project name and select the template which will be the base of your project. Black IDE currently offers the following project templates. Coin, a simple coin contract template, ERC20 token, and OpenZeppelin Basics. It has a set of templates based on OpenZeppelin, which includes ERC20, ERC721, and ERC1155 contract. Black IDE currently does not support deploying Mattercoin contracts, so we can ignore it for now. Black IDE also supports to create and manage projects out of 3 common frameworks: Truffle, Hat, and Waffle. Right now, let's create a new project named My Project with basic template from OpenZeppelin. Click Create Project to start the process. We'll stick to this project later in this video as we demo a complete cycle of smart contract development. This may take a few minutes to finish. When the project is successfully created, users will be redirected to Project Editor. Project Editor has a few useful built-in widgets, including File Explorer on the left with a toolbar above it, Code Editor to the right, and Log Viewer in the lower half. Click the project setting, which is the gear-shaped icon on the toolbar, to open Project Settings page. Users may view or change project basics, compiler, linter settings, among others. Black IDE's project editor has a built-in linter, which automatically checks codes and flags for potential warnings or errors. Project Editor will indicate an exclamation mark on the line that has warnings. When you hover, it will show the message, and a red cross mark on the line that has errors. When code is finished, users can click Build on the toolbar to start compiling the current project, which is the hammer icon. Outputs will be stored as .json files in build/contract folder under the current project path, and you can see the progress in the log viewer. Users may also trigger completion of a specific source contract by right-click on the file and then select Compile from the drop-down list menu. Click Deploy on the toolbox to open the contract deployment pop-up, which is the Docker View button. Compiled contract is the contract to be deployed in .json format. There might be multiple contracts in the single project. Choose the proper contract from the drop-down list. Here, we'll be using this one. GoToken.json this time, and construct parameters. Required parameters to construct the functions. Black IDE automatically generates parameters from data structures predefined in contract so that users only need to fill the form. In this example, we'll have an initial supply as 10,000. Signer is the key pair to sign the deployment transaction. This must be a key pair stored in Key Pair Manager. That's why we need to create it first. Here we pick miner from the drop-down list. Gas limit, transaction fees for the deployment transaction. Users may leave it blank for Black IDE to estimate on its own or manually override them with your estimates. Users may also trigger deploy of a specific .json output by right-click on the file and select Deploy from the drop-down menu. Click Estimate and Deploy button. Black IDE will estimate the transaction fees and fill corresponding sections in the form. You can hit Re-Estimate button to redo it. Finally, click File Alert Deploy button to send the deployment transaction. Sometimes transaction fees might be underestimated, which leads to a failed deployment with insufficient transaction fee error. In that case, manually override with a higher gas limit and retry deployment. Deployment transaction will take some time to be processed by the BSC network. Usually, it will just take a few seconds. Users may click on the tabs to view parameters, transaction, receipt, and ABI information. This pop-up can be recalled anytime from transaction history. After the contract is deployed, click on the contract address in the transaction details pop-up, and the user will be redirected to Contract Inspector. Users may also click Contract tab to switch to Contract Inspector and type in the address to open a contract. Black IDE's Contract Inspector also allows users to open and debug multiple contracts at the same time. Contract Inspector is mainly divided into three parts. On the left is write methods. It evokes write methods in the contract by selecting from the valid drop-down list. In the middle is read data. It will read data as predefined data types in the contract by selecting from the valid drop-down list. And on the right is the event logs. Logs query. It will display event logs as defined in the contract by selecting from the valid drop-down list. Black IDE automatically stores the contract ABI after deployment and generates above lists of write methods, data retrieval, event query, and their corresponding parameter forms. For more information on ABI, please refer to ABI storage. We'll come back to it later. Now let's open the GLD token contract we deployed moments ago to demo how to access the contract with the Contract Inspector. First, select Transfer Method from the drop-down list on the left column. Transfer method moves a specific amount of tokens from one address to another. We need to populate the parameter form to complete the transaction. Select Key Pair 01 form from the drop-down list and the receipt. And type in 100 for amount, as we wish to transfer 100 token in this example. Leave all forms in the get section to Black IDE to estimate. Select miner from the drop-down list in the signer column. This also designates miner as the sender in this transaction. Then click Execute the play button next to transfer to push and execute the transaction. Moments later, BSC network will prompt message stating transaction status and fee information. Let's proceed by verifying the outcome of last transaction. Select Balance Off from the drop-down list of data types. And finally hit Execute button to read the data. Sorry, we need to select the address also. The result will be shown below, which in our example is 100. This verifies that the above transfer has been successfully carried out. Finally, we pick Transfer from the drop-down list of contract events. And click Play button to query all transfer-related events. Results are shown below in the event log section. When working with Contract Inspector, Black IDE relies on Contract ABI to generate lists of methods, data types, and event types. ABI storage at the bottom is the place where these ABIs are stored. Upon successful deployment of a contract, Black IDE automatically stores contract ABIs. Users may view the raw ABI data by moving the cursor onto the ABI record. And click on the Edit icon or click Delete button to remove the ABI icon. In case when users need to access other contracts, for example online contracts, they need to add the contract ABI to ABI storage. Click New button in the ABI storage pop-up to start the process. For users' convenience, Black IDE also reads ABI from all compiled contracts in the current project. Select from the current project and select Import ABI from the drop-down list. Transaction history. Black IDE records every transaction pushed to the network. To view recent transactions, click Transactions tab to pull up the list of transactions. Users may single-click on the transaction to pull up transaction details pop up and review information such as basics, parameters, transaction, and receipt. Black IDE also comes with an RPC client, allowing users to interact with BSC nodes on the low level and examine the raw data. Click the Network Name tab on the bottom and select RPC client from the drop-down list. To pull up the RPC client pop-up, RPC client supports all Ethereum RPC methods. Select from the drop-down list to start, and Black IDE will generate the corresponding parameter automatically. Fill out necessary parameters and hit the Execute button to call the method and view response in the Result section. Okay, now we finished the introduction of how to build a smart contract project using Black IDE. It's fundamental and could be very helpful for starters. We'll come up with more sessions and advanced development skills. You are also welcome to comment below with the topics you are interested. Thanks for watching.